Hello again, Wildcat fans. I'm Paul Grua for WeberStateSports.com, and welcome to the September edition of Ask the AD with Weber State Athletic Director Jerry Bovee. Jerry, we're going to do this at the start of every month, and by the way, it's an anniversary for you in September as you begin your 8th year as Athletic Director at Weber State. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So here we go.
Well, here we go with another year, so congratulations on that. And another year is underway in the fall sports here at Weber State. Cross country, football, volleyball, soccer, all underway. And we've had some success already early on with some of the teams. You know, we get asked a little bit about what you do, what goes on in the summer, and it's always preparation for the next year. And it's exciting just to get things going again.
Yeah, actually, summers are busy around here. It's a lot of prep work, getting ready for the fall. Once we start student athletes coming back to campus and school starting, it's pretty much kind of game day mode. So, you know, some of the staff get an opportunity to take a few days off and kind of recharge the batteries. But we're doing a lot of things to prepare. A lot of our shipments from Adidas will come in. We're doing a lot of contract work, both coaches' contracts and game contracts, and then kind of setting the stage for especially when football starts, season tickets and doing all of the things, the RFPs that need to be done, and all the kind of off-season type things that prepare you to be successful once the season starts. So it's busy for all of us.
So the seasons are underway, as we said. Football opened up at Utah State, and next we'll head to South Dakota, an FCS matchup that against a team from the Missouri Valley, which is the same team as North Dakota State, same conference as North Dakota State. Let's talk a little bit about football scheduling and how that works. That's done many years in advance, but it's pretty tricky in the FCS to schedule non-conference games.
It is. Well, we sit in an interesting place where the Big Sky takes up such a big footprint anyway. So getting games here, non-conference games that are FCS games, is hard to do. You've been a part of that as we've tried to bring in institutions from the East Coast even, and where there's such a population of FCS schools in the East Coast, they really have no need to come west. So over the last couple of years, we've played North Dakota State. We'll get into a home-and-home here with South Dakota. Those are games that are a little tougher to get to. They have a hard time scheduling those games as well, so it seems to work for us, and we'll charter over. You know, over the years, we've kind of changed our philosophy a little bit as far as money games, as they're called, go. We have to generate so much money to run the football program through these types of games. So we try to be strategic about which games we'll do, and how much, you know, we can make that helps the football program to exist. And, you know, also our football player, our team wants to play those types of games. A lot of our players come from places where they feel like maybe they were overlooked, and so they want the chance to compete in that venue, the bigger venue of the FBS schools. So we try to be strategic. We've got upcoming games with Cal on the schedule. We'll play Utah in the coming years. But we try to pick destinations where it's easy to get to. We're going to go to San Diego State, and we've got a game coming up with Nevada Reno. So we try to pick those games that make sense for us financially, but also we can get to easily and continue to build the program. And we're hoping to be able to do it where we can just play one a year and then be able to get an FCS schedule to back that up.
We've seen in the last couple of years, it'll be again this year, Sacramento State is a non-conference game because they're not scheduled in the conference season. So we play them as a non-conference game. We see that going on in the Big Sky. Now, Idaho joins the Big Sky in 2 years, in 2018, which will give us 14 football teams. And there's potentially some changes with the schedule with Idaho coming in.
Yeah, so in fact, we just met on a conference call last week with the Big Sky. We're having some discussion about possibly going to a 9-game conference schedule. We'll have 14 teams that will be playing in our conference. Picking a champion with less games can be a little tricky if you don't all play each other, or you get that right number. So moving to 9 will help at least more clearly define a champion. It'll help some of us with some scheduling issues. So on every other year, you would get 5 games in conference play, which still allows us to go and find an FBS game on the schedule, which are getting harder to get. You know, some conferences have pulled back, like the Big Ten, and said we're just not going to allow those. So we'll be able to get an FBS game. We'll be able to hopefully find a home-and-home with an FCS team on those off years. And then we can play, you know, our 5 games in conference every other year too. So hopefully by 2020, That will come into play. Idaho will come in 18, and some scheduling will have to be changed. We've taken down our schedule off the website in anticipation for conference games, in anticipation that we could get a game with Idaho here and there. We've got to assimilate them into the schedule.
Cal Poly also, I think in the future, 18-19 will be a non-conference series as well. So some football series are done 4, 5, maybe even more, 6, 7 years in advance sometimes.
Yeah, we're already looking at 21, 22 at this point to find those FBS games to kind of anchor your schedule. And then at this point, we'd really only be looking at a home-and-home every other year with an FCS opponent if we go to 9 in the conference and get those games. So now it's a matter of just strategically scheduling your home-and-home to fit when, on those years when we'll get 5 games in conference, we'll go on the road for that FCS game and try to balance that out. But, some of the schools in our conference need to play 2 FBS games for their budget. We've been there in the past, and we've got one coming up in the future where we've scheduled 2 FBS games, but we think they're games we can compete in. It's to San Diego and Nevada in the same year. Those are good games for us. We'll make a guarantee, but we'll also be able to go and, we think, compete.
And that's part of a 12-game season as well. Every few years you get 12 games, so that changes things too. As we continue to talk about scheduling, let's talk a little bit about basketball. Since we've last talked, the basketball schedules for the men and women have been announced. First of all, let's talk about the Beehive Classic that will start in 2017 involving the in-state teams. How big is that for Weber State to be a part of?
Well, it's huge. Aside from what it does to your home schedule, which I think I've been asked a lot, why didn't you just do a tournament? And the big reason for us to fight for the schedule or the format we have now is that we can still maintain those home-and-home rivalries with BYU and Utah State. So instead of being in a home-and-home every other year, we'll be in a 3-year rotation with one game being on a neutral site at the Beehive Classic. Financially, it's going to be a great thing for us. We'll share in some of the proceeds from that, and it will be a great benefit to our program. I think from an image perspective, it's big that Weber State's part of that Big Four. So there's a lot of reasons why it was positive for us. We hope to have a major TV component to this so that we'll have some exposure that way, and we want to go down and participate and compete, and we want to allow our fans the opportunity to come down and be part of that. So all in all, it was a good situation for us. We'll still maintain some home-and-home rivalries with those teams that we want to play, but it will definitely be a little bit different for us.
That'll start in December 2017. The men's basketball schedule is announced this year. There have been some comments about it. Talk to us what the process of that is like on the basketball side, how that schedule gets put together for non-conference games.
Well, the goal obviously is to schedule Division I games. So that's what we intend to do at the outset. We've had some struggles in acquiring Division I teams to come to Ogden and play us here. So that's always the thing. And we talk about it a lot. I'm sure our fans are sick of us talking about it, but the reality is that's where we're at. So we have looked at down the road buying games. Last year we went to Portland, let's see, 2 years ago we went to Portland maybe, and that was a small guarantee that we paid. We ended up beating them, but we're going to have to look at situations where we can bring Division I games in and pay a guarantee. We also will look at, as we schedule football, to include basketball. So we've got a game with Wyoming coming up in the future in football, and we've tagged a home-and-home series or a 2-for-1 series with Wyoming on the basketball side. So the hope is that we can leverage that opportunity to get home basketball games as well. I can tell our fans that this isn't for lack of really trying to get a good Division I schedule. This year we'll go on the road and pay Pepperdine. They'll return next year. Denver's coming back to return that game. But we need more Division I games, and we're going to have to work hard to continue to try to get those games.
Is there a chance that the conference can help with that, some sort of a deal with another conference?
We have had some discussions with our conference to set up some type of a scheduling consortium, and most likely with the Big West Conference, where we could match up a little bit like we did with the ESPN games that we used to play at the end of the year, the Bracket Buster games. And at this point, we just haven't had a lot of luck in getting that going, primarily I think because the Big West can get a lot of Division I games. Sacramento State can get more Division I games to their place than we can right now. And so as I talk to our friends from Montana, they're in the same boat. how do we strategically work to get home Division I games.
It's kind of a victim of your own success, I think, sometimes as well, because teams do not want to come to the event center.
Well, we saw that last year. South Dakota State, very good basketball team. We were able to do a home and home in the same season because they have the same problem of getting home games. And we may do that again in the future. We've worked with some institutions to try to do that. It's a little trickier, but if that's the way we have to go, we'll do it in order to be able to try to build our home Division I schedule, non-conference.
Right. Couple things before we go. Let's talk TV a little bit. K-Jazz did a partnership with Weber State last year. They've done games in the past, but a big partnership last year, and that will continue this year. 4 football games and some basketball games on K-Jazz as well. Also have Root Sports home game in football season as well. The basketball and the football standpoint from television, pros and cons, and how that helps the program and how it affects ticket sales.
Yeah, K-Jazz was purchased by Channel 2 this year, so we're working with a new partner. But I think the biggest thing for why we get in the television business is for the image, for the exposure that we can try to garner. Your hope is that you're on TV, you're gonna put your product out there to a bigger audience, and the hope is that they'll begin to follow you a little bit more, learn who you are, and come up and buy a ticket and come to a game. Last year, we did see a little bit of a downturn in our home, our regular season and conference home attendance, but we didn't see any downtick in the revenue side. So primarily, you could argue that primarily what you lost are those that were finding discounted or free tickets that were out there, and they stayed home because they could watch it on TV. It really didn't hurt us financially. In fact, we were able to gain a little bit financially because of the program that we do is kind of a shared expense. So our partners take part of that inventory and sell it. We take part of it. We pay a little bit for the rights to do it, but it's a lower amount, and then we hope that we can at least break even, garner some more support. I heard a lot of positive last year from people that saw us that don't come to games that we hope over time will jump in and become fans of ours. The other thing I think is from a recruiting standpoint, having a good production that we can stream that production out to our parents that can watch their sons or daughters or whatever play. And then, the exposure to be on the 10 o'clock news with highlights. Exactly. Every game we had highlights and we're part of that discussion. So overall, I think it was a success. We're going to have to continue to build it. This year we're going to be a little more strategic which games we put on and hope that we pick the right ones that make sense and don't give the whole inventory to television, keep some back, and hope that we can sell some tickets.
We had a question come in on Twitter, and we want to encourage fans to send us a tweet at Weber State or at Jerry Bovee. This question comes from Tyler. Great question. He talks about the football season opener at Utah State that was the first ever college game streamed on Twitter. And speaking of broadcasting, that's the future of broadcasting. Tyler asked your thoughts on the live stream game on Twitter last week. Was it a success, and it will be something that Weber State will participate in again?
I hope we're able to participate in it again. This really came about as a Mountain West Conference contract with Twitter. It's great to be part of groundbreaking content being put out on different streaming opportunities or whatever. And I think this is only going to grow in the future. We saw over the weekend with college football getting underway, the online component and streaming component was up dramatically for ESPN. As they looked at their numbers I saw this morning, it was a huge success. So I think that's the wave of the future. We've got to be prepared to deliver our content in all kinds of different ways. So will we do it again? We hope so. Was it successful? I think the fact that it was new makes it successful. I was able to look at that a little bit just to see how it was going, and it gave us exposure to a whole different crowd. If we're going to reach down and get a different generation to kind of come up through and follow us, we've got to play ball the way they play ball, and we've got to deliver it the way that they're used to content being delivered. So I hope we'll see this in the future. I think it's the wave of the future.
It really is. The NFL will stream games on Twitter this year, too. So thanks for joining us for another edition of Ask the AD. Jerry, it's exciting to get the seasons going underway. The September 17th first football home game.
We're ready to go. I hope that you'll all come out and support. I did the letter this morning for basketball season tickets, so before you know it, we'll be underway there too. So this is a fun time of the year to get rolling, and we're excited about this season and hope to continue to grow on last season's success.
All right, thanks again for joining us on Ask the AD. Make sure you follow us on social media and visit WeberStateSports.com for more information. And go Wildcats!